Welcome to TaleBox, where every story hides a secret, dark mysteries, true crimes, untold tale, all waiting to be discovered. Subscribe, leave a like, and open the next box of truth. This story begins with something ordinary, a pizza delivery, a man, a car, and two small pizzas heading to an address on the edge of town. But what happened next became one of the strangest crimes in American history. A quiet man, a steel collar, a ticking clock, and a mystery that still haunts investigators 2 decades later. They called it the Pizza Bomber Case. Today, you'll hear the story of Brian Douglas Wells, piece by piece, moment by moment. Brian Douglas Wells was an ordinary man living in Erie, Pennsylvania. Born in 1956, he worked as a pizza delivery driver, a simple job, enough to pay the bills. Friends described him as quiet, polite, and somewhat naive. He lived alone, he watched TV, he fed stray cats, but his life was about to collide with people very different from him. People with secrets, people capable of manipulation and violence. There was Marjorie Deal Armstrong, intelligent, unpredictable, and deeply disturbed. There was Kenneth Barnes, a man with criminal connections and debts to pay. And William Rothstein, a retired teacher with engineering skills and a fascination with puzzles. Together they would weave a plan so bizarre that it still sounds like fiction. August 28th, 2003. It was a warm Thursday afternoon in Erie. Brian was at work, stacking pizza boxes, when the phone rang. An order came in for 2 small pizzas to be delivered to a location outside town, near a tall radio tower on a dirt road. The area was quiet, isolated, almost eerie, but Brian didn't question it. He got in his car and drove off, pizzas in hand. That was the last normal thing he ever did. What happened at that radio tower remains a mystery, but investigators believe that when Brian arrived, someone was waiting. He was ambushed. A heavy metal device was clamped around his neck, a homemade collar bomb. Attached to it was a ticking timer, a lock system, and a small note. The note gave him instructions: rob a bank, follow a scavenger hunt-style list of clues, and if he completed every step, he might find the key to remove the bomb. So Brian got back in his car. He wasn't just a pizza man anymore. He was a man carrying death around his neck. At around 2:30 p.m., Brian walked into the PNC Bank on Peach Street. Customers turned to look. He seemed nervous, but calm. In his hand, another note. It demanded $250,000 in cash. The teller hesitated, terrified. Brian lifted his shirt slightly to show the bomb, but the bank didn't have that kind of money on hand. They gave him $8,702, the most they could gather. Brian took the bag, turned, and walked out. No shouting, no shooting. Just a man walking into the sun with a bomb around his neck. He got into his car and drove off slowly. Within minutes, the police were on him. Police blocked his path near a parking lot. They ordered him to the ground. He obeyed, sitting on the asphalt, legs crossed, still clutching the cane-shaped shotgun he'd been given. Officers kept their distance. Brian begged them, "It's going to go off. It's going to go off." They called for the bomb squad, but the nearest unit was miles away. Minutes passed. Tick, tick, tick. Then, BOM. The explosion tore through the air. Brian Wells died instantly. He was 46 years old. What followed became one of the longest and strangest investigations in FBI history. At first, they didn't know what to believe. Was Brian a victim, or was he part of the plot? Inside his car, investigators found detailed handwritten instructions, 9 pages long. They described a timed scavenger hunt across Erie. Drive here, find a key, follow another clue, disarm the device. But when experts retraced the route, they discovered it was impossible to finish in time. It was a death sentence disguised as a game. The bomb itself was incredibly complex. 2 kitchen timers, a combination lock, multiple triggers, and booby traps to prevent tampering. It was the work of someone who knew exactly what they were doing. Over the next few years, The FBI connected the dots. They uncovered a web of greed, manipulation, and madness. Marjorie Deal Armstrong, the woman with a genius IQ and a violent past, emerged as the prime architect. She wanted money, but also control. She allegedly planned to use the stolen cash to hire a hitman to kill her own father for inheritance. Kenneth Barnes, her friend and partner, later confessed that he'd helped plan the robbery. He traded testimony for a reduced sentence, and William Rothstein, the quiet man with the engineering mind, was believed to have built the bomb itself. He died before he could be charged. When authorities questioned Marjorie, she shifted blame constantly. She called everyone else crazy. She claimed Brian had been in on it. But even as she spoke, her story changed each time. So, who was Brian Wells really? A pawn or a conspirator? The FBI concluded that Brian knew about the robbery plan, but not that the bomb was real. He may have believed it was a fake, a scare tactic. Instead, he became its first and only casualty. His family, however, has always insisted he was innocent, that he was ambushed, forced, terrified. They still call him a victim, not a villain. And maybe they're right, because in this case, almost everyone lied. And almost no one truly knew the full plan. In 2007, after years of investigation, the government charged Deal Armstrong and Barnes with armed bank robbery, conspiracy, and using a destructive device. Marjorie was found guilty and sentenced to life in prison. Kenneth Barnes received 45 years. Rothstein had already died of cancer. Marjorie Deal Armstrong died behind bars in 2017, still claiming her innocence. The case officially closed, but questions never stopped. Who exactly placed that bomb on Brian's neck? Did he ever have a chance to escape? And why did the plan seem almost designed to fail? The story fascinated the world. News headlines called it the collar bomb heist. Documentaries, podcasts, and films tried to make sense of it all. Netflix released Evil Genius, the true story of America's most diabolical bank heist, in 2018. A deep dive into the minds of those involved. Viewers saw interviews, confessions, and chilling details that made the case even stranger. To this day, it remains one of the most bizarre criminal plots in US history. A puzzle with missing pieces, a tragedy with no heroes. The pizza bomber case isn't just about crime. It's about human psychology, greed, manipulation, fear, and control. It shows how ordinary people can be dragged into extraordinary darkness. It also reminds us how thin the line is between victim and accomplice, between reality and game. Brian Wells was a man who woke up to deliver pizzas, and by sunset became the center of a nationwide mystery. In the end, we may never know the full truth. Was Brian guilty or just unlucky? Was the bomb meant to steal money or to end a life? But one thing is certain, that August day in 2003 changed everything for the small city of Erie, and for the world watching on TV. It was a haunting reminder that sometimes the most dangerous traps are built not with metal and wires, but with manipulation and deceit. Thank you for listening. If you'd like to explore more true crime mysteries, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And this was the story of Brian Wells, the pizza bomber.